You think you're stuck because of fear, but Nietzsche would say you're in love with your cage. Stay till the end, and I'll show you why your biggest limit was never fear. It was comfort. And if this hits you, comment with just one word. Awake. You weren't told you couldn't. You told it to yourself, again and again, until it became your truth. I can't speak up. I can't leave. I can't change. These phrases don't come from reality. They come from a comfort you found in limitation. People say, I can't, when they mean, I'm afraid. But fear is socially shameful, so we disguise it as incapability. It's easier to play the victim than to admit you're avoiding responsibility for your own power. Nietzsche would tear this illusion apart. I can't is the first mask you wear when you don't want to face how strong you could become if you tried. It's the language of a man who decided to kneel before anything challenged him, because standing up means choosing, and choice means consequences. I can't protects you from both. But let's be clear, the barbed wire you think surrounds you is made of straw. Burn it. The moment you say, I choose not to, instead of I can't, everything changes. You reclaim authorship of your life. You stop being a character in a play you didn't write. Because weakness isn't the inability to act. It's the refusal to admit you are free. You didn't break free because your chains became comfortable. The reason most people never escape their limits isn't because they can't. It's because they've fallen in love with their cage. There's a strange comfort in pain we already know. The weight of disappointment becomes familiar, predictable, safe. And when freedom finally knocks, it doesn't feel like hope. It feels like fear. Because what would you do with no excuse left? Who would you be without your struggle? Nietzsche would laugh at the idea that people crave liberation. He believed most prefer certainty over possibility, obedience over chaos, identity over evolution. We turn our suffering into a personality. I've always been like this, we say, as if that justifies remaining small. We cling to the myth that struggle gives us depth, when in truth it gives us a script, one we never dared rewrite. And here's the brutal truth. Some people don't want to heal. They want permission to stay broken, because being broken earns sympathy. Demands less. It protects you from the terrifying truth that you could become someone stronger, colder, clearer. But you'd have to let go of being understood. The real chains are not made of iron, but of narrative, and no one forges them tighter than the man who insists he's already tried everything. So Nietzsche's question isn't, are you trapped? It's, do you secretly enjoy it? Fear isn't what stops you. It's you standing in front of it, silently agreeing. Most people don't run from fear. They freeze. They make it a throne, and then they bow to it every day. In small decisions, silent compromises, in every just in case and every not right now. The real barrier isn't fear itself. It's your relationship with it. You pretend it's external, a force you can't control. But fear, Nietzsche would say, is your own reflection, magnified by your refusal to act. The modern individual is addicted to safety. Even growth is filtered through comfort. Step outside your comfort zone, but not too far. We take risks that don't cost us, speak truths only when they're popular, and call it bravery. But no one ever transformed by remaining liked, stable, or careful. Fear is the gatekeeper of the self you've never met. It tests whether your will is stronger than your excuse. And in most cases, it's not. That's why your dreams die quietly. Not because the world crushed them, but because you handed them over every time fear whispered, what if you fail? You think fear is the enemy. But Nietzsche would call it your truest ally, because it's the only thing honest enough to show you where your limits begin. And until you look it in the eye and move anyway, you'll keep mistaking paralysis for personality. So, when fear appears again, don't fight it and don't freeze. Just step forward while your hands shake. Because freedom is not the absence of fear. It's your refusal to let it decide. You're obedient not because you're weak, but because you were broken into it early. Obedience isn't always a conscious choice. Often, it's a reflex, trained into you before you even knew how to choose. You raise your hand, wait your turn, say yes, even when you mean no. And with every repetition, your will gets quieter. Until one day, silence becomes your identity. Society doesn't need you to think. It needs you to comply. From schoolrooms to offices, you're conditioned to follow. Not to question, not to resist, but to adapt. And the most dangerous part, you start believing that this adaptation is virtue. That being agreeable is maturity, that staying silent is wisdom. But Nietzsche would tell you, this is not discipline, it's submission. And every time you shrink for the sake of peace, you kill a piece of your potential. You weren't born obedient, you were trained, with praise for being good, with punishment for rebellion, with fear of disapproval. You didn't learn to think, you learned to fit. And now, even in adulthood, You wait for permission that never needed to be asked. The real tragedy isn't the rules you follow. It's that you forgot you could rewrite them. You forgot that instinct you had as a child, to ask why, to say no, to choose differently. You forgot your spine was meant to stand, not to bend. But you can remember. The first act of rebellion isn't loud, it's quiet. It's the moment you stop nodding. The second, you feel the urge to please and choose not to. The first time you realize, obedience might feel safe, but it's killing the part of you that was meant to lead. You want to be liked. You want to be accepted. You want people to say you're kind, selfless, a good person. And so you smile when you're exhausted. You say it's okay when it's not. You offer your time when you don't have it. And somewhere along the way, the performance became the person. But who are you without the applause? Who are you when you're not playing safe? The good person is a role society loves, because it keeps you quiet. It turns your desire for peace into obedience. It teaches you that pleasing others is noble and that setting boundaries is selfish. Nietzsche would say, this is not virtue, this is avoidance. And the more you fear upsetting others, the further you drift from your own center. Goodness, as sold to you, is submission dressed up in soft language. Be nice, be patient, be agreeable. But real strength isn't always polite. Sometimes it says no. Sometimes it offends. Sometimes it walks away. Not out of cruelty, but out of self-respect. The greatest lie they ever told you was that love must be earned through sacrifice, that your value depends on how useful, how humble, how quiet you are. But real worth isn't negotiable. You don't owe kindness to everyone who demands it. You don't have to bleed to prove you're alive. The moment you stop needing to be good, you start becoming real. When you're real, you may lose their praise, but you will gain something far more dangerous. You will gain yourself. There was a voice in you once. Raw, undiluted. It didn't ask for permission to exist. It didn't calculate consequences or edit itself into something digestible. It just spoke. Loud, messy, honest. But slowly, you started killing it. Not with weapons, with approval. You learned when to stay quiet. You learned which parts of you made others uncomfortable, and you chose peace over presence, survival over substance. They said, be polite. You translated that into silence. They said, don't be dramatic. You erased your depth. Every just kidding, every fake smile, every moment you nodded when you wanted to scream, you weren't being strong. You were being trained. Nietzsche would call it the domestication of the spirit. You became housebroken. Your thoughts turned into scripts. Your fire turned into decor. You told yourself it was maturity, but truth doesn't die with age. It dies in hesitation. And the irony, the people you tried to protect with your silence, they never noticed. They just got used to the watered-down version of you, comfortable, predictable, forgettable. But you haven't forgotten. Deep inside, that voice is still there, waiting for you to stop filtering, waiting for you to say something that makes your stomach flip. Because it's real. Because it's yours. You don't need to be louder. You need to stop whispering your truth through the voice of others. You've read the books, you've watched the talks, you've journaled, reflected, meditated, and talked it through 1,000 times. But nothing really changes. Because you're still thinking your way around the wall instead of smashing through it. Every psychological barrier, every inner prison is built from habits that were never challenged by action. You wait until it's safe to be brave. You wait until you're ready. But ready is just another form of fear in disguise. Nietzsche didn't believe in comfort as a goal. He believed in confrontation. He believed that transformation doesn't come through understanding. It comes through collision. With the world, with limits, with the self-image you've defended for too long. You think you need clarity? Number. You need impact. The kind that makes your hands shake, that breaks your rituals, that offends even you. Do the thing that feels wrong, but real. Say what's been locked in your chest for years. Take the step you swore you never would, just to see who you become on the other side of it. Growth isn't a thought, it's a fracture. Until you act beyond your old self, you are still rehearsing your chains. You were never meant to be acceptable. You are meant to be real, and being real is dangerous. Not because you hurt others, but because you stop lying to yourself to keep them comfortable. There comes a point in this process where you no longer fit into the image they built for you. Not the family's good child, not the company's reliable performer, not society's well-adjusted citizen. You start saying things you used to edit. You walk away from people you used to bend for, and you don't even flinch. That's not rebellion. That's resurrection. The most frightening part is not what you lose. It's what you gain. You wake up one day, and there's no apology in your voice, no hesitation in your spine. You are no longer filtered, softened, rehearsed, and the world notices. Some will respect it. Others will retreat. But that's no longer your concern. This new self, this dangerous self, doesn't need validation. It doesn't chase peace through approval. It doesn't explain itself. It acts. And in that action, there's clarity. You're not healed. You're not perfect. But you're awake.